Okay, you said process. So it was. Don't get me wrong. It was at least for the first 4 months. Whenever, anytime someone would say, "Oh, how's the book coming?" I couldn't even say the word book. It's like, oh, this is just a long feature. I couldn't say, oh, it's an 80,000 word feature. That's how I had to look at it. So I try to be disciplined because, obviously there are days when you don't feel like writing anything, but I'm like, okay, I need to write 1,000 words a day. So I'll give you a more immediate example. I'm already working on my second book. It's on De La Soul. So, look, I don't really feel like writing 1,000 words every day, but you just got to do it. It's like working out. It's like exercise. So you go to the gym and you're like, man, I don't really feel like it. But day 1 is tough. Day 2 is tough. But then by the time you get into a rhythm.
Into day 56.
Right. Then you're just like doing it. Then you're just doing it, right? So, yeah, I would say the process is more about that. And also, I knew what I was up against. I knew that, one, it was the first big book on Kendrick Lamar ever. And for whatever reason, people are sort of scared to talk about Kendrick. Like, they almost treat him like they're, like there's going to be repercussions for talking about him. And I'm like, well, it's positive. So a lot of the issues that I was having was just explaining to people in email, like, look, this isn't some gossip tell-all. I'm going to tell the whole story. It's a cultural biography. So, once people sort of wrapped their heads around what I was doing, it got easier as it went along. So even though I didn't get an opportunity to talk to Kendrick and TDE, Top Dog Entertainment, they were great about letting me talk to everybody else. So I talked to everybody from like Anna Wise, who sings with them. I talked to Layla Hathaway, and Terrace Martin was a huge supporter. And now that it's come out, people are seeing what I was trying to do. So, but I also, because I was writing about Kendrick, I wanted to make sure that all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. So if I was writing about Compton, I'm like, wait, no, I'm not from Compton. I need a Compton person. I need somebody from there talking about this city, or at least to verify. So I say all that to say context was super important in the book. So if I'm writing about, like you said, jazz, if I'm writing about LA jazz, I wanted LA jazz people in it. If I'm writing about, what was I writing about? South African hip hop, because he went to South Africa.
Right.
I wanted South African rappers talking about his time there. I didn't want Kendrick or TDE to come back and be like, wait a minute, like, you didn't get this right. So I would say my process honestly was driven by fear. If I'm being real. It's driven by like, this is gonna come out, people are gonna hate it. But thankfully the love has been immense. And second part of your question, whoever I'm talking to, I always try to get to the human behind the music. So whether it's Kendrick Lamar, whether it's a jazz artist like Mugai McCraven or Damon Locks or whoever, the music is one thing. The music is going to speak for itself. We're going to talk about that, but what about them and their personal life helped them convey this art? I try to get to that as much as possible because no one else is going to do that because these people are used to people saying, oh, talk to me about the record. How was it like working with whoever?
Who are you going to collaborate with next?
Who you working with next? Yeah. So I try to get to like, seriously, I start with like, okay, how are you feeling? How were you feeling when you were making this? What did you learn about yourself? Stuff like that. And I feel like my form of protest comes in the form of writing. And it comes in the form of covering people who don't historically get covered. And taking those people to these publications that historically they've been locked out of. So whether it's taking Earl Sweatshirt to like Entertainment Weekly, or whether it's taking these jazz cats to like these big clubs, they have never been there. And so that's a whole new audience that's learning about their protest music. So I hope that answered your question. And as far as, I see South African jazz having a moment, actually. I feel like there have been a lot of, whether it's the Duzo Makatini, whether it's like these other people, there's a big groundswell of underground South African jazz is coming out. And I mentioned Shabaka and the Ancestors. The Ancestors are South African instrumentalists. And so I see right now the movement coming from there. And hopefully somebody can school me. I have not locked into East African jazz yet. I've been asking.
Probably because COVID
Yeah.
shut down a lot of live performances.
Yeah.
But I would say in the past maybe 5 to 7 years,
Okay.
there's been more of a platform for like jazz artists to show themselves or like to showcase, especially with big jazz festivals that we've had in the city.
There's this one jazz cat who I think he plays drums with Masego. But that's like the extent. I've been asking and I haven't really gotten a clear answer yet. So.
Side chat, we shall side chat.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm going to ask the final question/questions. A lot of times this work, even if you're not like covering protest music or like tragedy or anything like that, a lot of times this work is really, really draining, really, really hard for you to, because it makes you reach into some depths inside you so that whatever you produce is authentic, is real. And the cost that writers pay for that emotionally is often very, very high. And I bet the people who are reading the work don't actually know that or recognize that. And even the writer themselves did not actually budget for that amount of emotional labor, right? Yeah. So I want to ask you, what are your practices for refreshing yourself, replenishing your spirit, for cultivating joy, and for tending to hope as a discipline? Mariam Kaba calls hope is a discipline. It's something that you discipline yourself into. Yeah. That this is, despite what is going on around you, that this is the place where you find yourself again every day.
Well, I mean, first thing, when I submitted the book, I had to get a therapist. I never had a therapist before. Wow. Because chapter 5, I mean, the whole book is about, it's not just about Kendrick, it's about like, chapter 5 in particular is about like the killing of Mike Brown. So I talked to Mike Brown's dad. It was about the killing of Tamir Rice. I talked to Tamir Rice's mom. And these people were a lot stronger than me. I was like a wreck, just preparing, because I'm like preparing questions like, how do I ask a parent about the killing of a kid? And the fact that it was in a very big way.
For me, just sorry to cut to this part, like I have to. I was once in a session like this. I was in the audience, and Michael Brown's mother was speaking, and the room was just like you're saying, a wreck. There's no way you leave that room and you're not in pieces.
It's tough.
We were shattered completely,
And it's tough to talk to somebody and you're getting the notes, and obviously you have to revisit it. So I had to tap back into some stuff that I was doing even before I was covering music. Before I was covering music, I was covering crime, I was covering like general assignment things in Maryland. And so I had to like study different angles of Eric Garner getting choked out. I had to study the moment when Mike Brown is killed. Like I had to like look at that stuff over and over. So it was hard. It was hard, and I had to turn around and write 10,000 coherent words on that. Like that was crazy. So I had to get. So I'm in regular therapy. I also got to give a ton of credit to my wife. She does an amazing job of keeping me human. In terms of like, I give her all the credit. I tell her all the time. So it's like I try to keep it to certain work hours. So like if I'm writing, and you'll see me in here writing, it's like I'll do from like 9 to 5, then I cut it off. I don't do any more work, so I can still, cook. When am I cooking for dinner? What are we doing afterwards, or after work, or whatever like that. So I try to make myself human as much as possible. Also, I'm just such a music nerd that I'm listening to stuff that I don't have to cover. So my default is like going to 1970s, like Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway, and stuff like that. So my happy place, honestly, is just, it's still evolving. but also being around cool people helps too. Where it's just like, okay, I'm working, but this isn't everything. It's my work, but it's not like the